If you wanna stay with me, if you wanna try.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Mel's Board Game Room. So today I am doing a recap of MelCon 2025, and we're going to be covering the first day of MelCon. So it's a 3-day event, and this is going to be a recap of day 1. So first, let me tell you a bit about what is MelCon. So MelCon is a 3-day mini convention that I host every year since 2019, and I do this like as a birthday gift to myself. So it's always around the end of June, which is when my birthday is. And then I invite a bunch of people over, and then we do a 3-day weekend. It started out in my home, and it got a little too big to host at home. So then I got a hall and kind of open it to the public as well. So this year was held at the Royal Canadian Legion here in Acme, Alberta, and we had about 50 people attend. So it was from 2:00 in the afternoon till about midnight on Friday, then 8:30 to midnight on Saturday, and then 8:30 to 5 on Sunday. So I'm going to be talking to you about the games that I've played on day 1, and that's going to be the quickest video because I didn't get tons and tons played that first day because I played like a bigger game. So let me show you. The first one we played is Cube Next Level Dominoes. So this is a game that arrived actually just a couple of days before MelCon was held. I purchased this on Amazon because for my birthday and from my work, I had received a couple of Amazon gift cards. So perfect opportunity to get a few new games. This one is really interesting. The pieces are so interesting. There's 3 sides to each piece, as you can see in the top corner there. And there's going to be 3 different colors. It could be all that they're all the same color, or it could be like 2 in 1, or it could be all different colors. And there's like a slow side and high side as well. So this plays like domino, where you need to match the color that it's going to be touching. It also needs to match the height. So you have to have the high side with the high side and the low side with the low side. So the tiles direction needs to match. And if somebody plays a piece that has black sides on it, that blocks and you can't play next to those pieces. And the goal is to get rid of all your pieces first, if you can. And when somebody does that, anybody else who still has pieces has to score them. So if you have a piece that have the black sides to them, that is worth 5 points. If you have a piece that's all the 3 colors, that's 3 points. If you have a piece that has 2 of the same colors, that's 2 points. And if you have a piece that has 1 of each color, then that is 1 point. And the goal is to have as little points as possible after 3 rounds. So this was my first time playing it. I had seen this game being played before, and actually, spoiler alert, it got played a few times throughout the weekend. But it was such an interesting game to play. It's so visually appealing, and then kind of sometimes you think it's going to fit, but then that the height doesn't match, so you can't play it there. It's just a really interesting, neat game. I quite enjoyed that one. And that was the first one that got to the table for MelCon 2025. After that, I played a game of Finspan. So Finspan is the latest game that came out from Stonemaier Game for the Wingspan trilogy, I guess I would call it. So we have Wingspan, we have Wormspan, and now we have Finspan, which is all about fish. And I'm going to say this game, in my opinion, is the fastest one to teach and to learn. It's very straightforward and simple to learn how to play. But also, I also think this is like the most strategic game to play. So on your turn, you have a certain amount of divers, and then you're going to place the divers one at a time. And you're going to decide what you want to do with the divers. You're either going to put them up to the side to place a fish card onto your board. And depending on the fish card that you have, it'll have different costs in order to be able to place that card. It could either be that you have to spend some of the fish eggs that you have on your board to cover the cost of that fish. Or it could be that you need to kind of take a little fish or even a school of fish, that's the little wooden tokens on the board. Sometimes it can be that you need to cover up a smaller fish with the fish you're placing, and it's eating a fish, and then that's the cost for that particular one. Most of the time, not most of the time, but a lot of the time, it costs you cards or a combination of all the other things. So it's okay, great, I'm going to push this fish over here, and it costs 2 cards. So you got to go through your hand and you take 2 cards and you got to discard them. Now, what's really interesting with this one compared to the other variation of this game is that the discard pile remains with you. It's your own discard pile, because there are ways to pull fish cards out of your discard pile back into your hand. So you want to be strategic as to what you're going to give up, but it might come back. So it's not necessarily gone forever. So that's the first action you can do. The second action you can do with your little diver is to go and dive down one of the column. So you start at the top, and if the first segment has a fish in it, then you will activate the top action. Then you go down each card, because sometimes when you place cards, it can have an if activated ability. So if it has that type of if activated ability, you will activate the ability. And sometimes it's just for you, and sometimes it's for all the players to benefit from. So there's a lot of positive player interaction in this game. Almost none. Nobody can really mess with your cards, because you have your own deck of cards, like you have your own card that you've collected, you have your own discard pile. There's resources are not shared, so there's really no negative player interaction, which sometimes that's welcome, right? So you can activate those cards as you go down. Then you would get to the second section, and then if you have a fish in that, you can activate the top portion. Then you would activate the fish in that section. Then you get to the bottom section, and you can, again, if you have a fish in that bottom section, you can activate the ability for that section, and then you can activate each card if they have an if activated ability. Then once you're at the very bottom, each column has like a special ability you can activate one time throughout each it's called weeks. So in each week, then, but if you would cover it up with your diver if you activate it, but then you wouldn't be able to activate it again with your other divers. So week 1, now there's a pre-printed version that you can play where week 1 you're scoring your fish and your little fish. Then week 2 you score rows that are completely filled out with fish. And then week 3 you will score schools of fish. And then week 4 you just kind of complete all the end of game abilities or scores, and then everything is going to score. So your fish that you've accumulated, the fish that you've eaten is going to score, the little fish and the school of fish on your board and the fish eggs are going to score as well. So then you do kind of like the final tally, and whoever has the most points win. On the other side of that little goal board, you can change up the goals each week. So far, because every time I was playing this game, it was with new players, we just played the pre-printed side, which has been fine anyways. But it's very straightforward, neat variation to this game. Everybody I've played it with has quite enjoyed the game. So it has definitely similar mechanism to Wingspan and Wormspan. But as I said, this one just seems a little easier to teach and feels a little bit more strategic, because you can move your fish around on the board. And then when you move your little fish, you're trying to get them in a cluster of 3, because then it'll change into a school of fish. At the end of the game, a fish is worth 1 point, but a school of fish is worth 6 points. So it's really worth trying to get those together. But school of fish can't be in the same area as another school of fish, so you're trying to get them like out of the way as well. So there's a bit more area awareness, I guess I would say. A very interesting game though, and it was very well received. Then the next game that we played was Galactic Cruise. So Galactic Cruise is such a great game, but it is a bit of a long teach. So as much as I'm saying Wingspan is quick and easy to teach and learn, Galactic Cruise, not so much. However, they do an amazing job with it for how big and complex of a game that this is. So this is Galactic Cruise was on the table there. So you can see it's a big table hop. We had 2 tables put together for this one here, and it gave us nice lots of room for this game. I'm not sure if we could have fit it in one, maybe, but it would have been really crammed and really tight. So it just worked out well to have it on the 2 tables. So one thing I want to point out for how big this game is, each player board, the iconography does kind of describe what you would do each step of the way. So once you kind of get familiar with it, that works out really well. Plus, each player has a player aid booklet. So it's not just a player aid card, it's a whole booklet that will help you learn all the rules that are involved in Galactic Cruise. But then where they really did a good job with it is if you have any more questions on something, it tells you in that booklet where to find further details in the main rule book. So that, to learn more about this, go to page 20. I think that is so clever. But this game is so interesting. So what's happening is we are going to be creating ships to go on cruises, and we're going to advertise these cruises and pre-sell tickets, and then if there's still room, kind of sell tickets at the time that the cruise is going to take off. But before we can do that, we need to build the ship and then put kind of different type of rooms and entertainment rooms in there that's going to attract the right kind of visitors that we're going to have coming along with us. Because there's 3 types of guests. We have the family, we have the leisure, and we have the action people. So depending on what they're interested in, what we want to put in our ship or the guests we want to attract to the ship that we've created. Now, all that is the kind of special thing with this is this ship is taking, or this cruise is going to be in outer space. We're going out in space and inviting people on to go there. And then we're going to stop at a couple of planet locations. And then again, whether it's going to appeal to their style or not, and then come back. And every time we do that, we're going to be able to put a cube to kind of like, that's going to be the time tracker and the score tracker as well to indicate that we've gone on a cruise. There's also kind of secret goals that's going to allow you to place cubes also onto this tracker. So you're trying to create these or kind of meet these different goals also. And it's really at its main base, its main course. This game is a worker placement game. So while we're building the ships, while we're advertising these crews, while we're collecting technology, getting the resources, because to be able to go on these ships, on these crews, we need to have food for everybody. We need to have oxygen for these rooms, and we need to have fuels to make sure that the ship has enough fuel to make the trip and come back. So we have to do all of this in a worker placement fashion. Then when it's ready, we can launch off, and then we do the launch. And then at the start of each of our round, before we do our worker placement, if we have a cruise ship in space, we're going to activate what they're doing out in space as well. And that can give us different benefits. And if we land on planet, it can give us a different kind of future power that we unlock as well. This game is so interesting. The organization of how it's all put together is really well done. Really, I'm impressed with this. I have the base game myself. So some of the components are cardboard instead of wood or metal, but the rest of the component is just as amazing as the deluxe version. To look at my game, you wouldn't think, oh, wow, this is a base game or, like a retail version game. But so good. Great game. Here's another picture of the board and the player board. So this was from my spot. So that I was playing the pink players. And you can see I had been able to place some gears, which are going to help me access different actions that I can activate more easily. And then the more gears that you remove, the more room you have for resources. And you're placing your workers, and it's just such an amazing game. But it's a bigger game, and that took the rest of the evening. So that was the last game I played during the first day of MelCon 2025. So be sure to follow me on Facebook. My Facebook page is Mel's Board Game Room. I'm also on Instagram at Mel's_boardgame_room. I also have a podcast that I do with my friend Carla called The Board Game Specialists. And on YouTube, my channel is Mel's Board Game Room. Bye, everybody.